Ultimately, what I have that I'd like to show people is a genealogy. It's something that a lot of people skip over because it's just a list of names. But to the Hebrews and the Hebrew people, it wasn't just names. There was derived meaning from these names. So I actually took from Dr. Chuck Messler, who presented something on YouTube that I've run over, a description from Adam down to Noah. And it basically kind of spoke about Jesus, who we know of, or Yeshua, who some others know of, the Messiah, the Christ. So I thought that was an interesting idea, and I kind of showed it to my family, and they thought it was pretty neat. But the Lord spoke to me, and He said, I kind of want to show you some further meaning of it. So open up to Matthew and start going down and figure out what these other peoples mean. Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, Judah, all the way down to Jesus and even Luke, with the different genealogies, being one from Mary and one from Joseph. I started finding that the characteristics of Jesus was in these names. I started finding the story of Jesus was in these names. The resurrection of Jesus were in these names. And it wasn't just in the New Testament as we know it. In the Torah, the Old Testament, I went through Genesis, and I found more. I went through the 12 tribes of Israel. I found even more. Even the 7 churches in Revelation, more. I started putting them together as sentences so they had a little bit more impact, a little bit more meaning for me, and they put this story together. What this story told was things that had happened, things that are happening, and things that would happen. It was very prophetic in a way. It's not from a man's understanding that we can put this together, because these are generations of people that are naming their own children Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah, Perez, Hezron, Ram, these different names with these different meanings, and they're not doing it deliberately to tell a story. They're doing it because they're receiving inside of themselves a name. And they give these names. Some are, somewhat of a curse. Some are somewhat of a blessing. Some are a question to what's going on. And, Jesus was cursed. He was on a cross, and being nailed to wood is a curse in itself. And the resurrection is such a huge blessing. And the prophetic of a servant being sent is something that I'm just fascinated by. So ultimately, to answer your question, what I'm looking for this is to be sent out among all people, all nations, all tribes, for people that don't believe, for people that do believe, and some people that just question their faith, to have more faith like this has brought me, to have more of a understanding that this isn't just happenstance, this isn't something that just appeared. And for those that are questioning, if this is even reality, if this is, if heaven's real, if hell's real, if God's real, if Jesus is real, this shows a connection from an Old Testament to a New Testament through thousands of years of Scripture that brings people to Jesus. And that's what it's for. My strengthening of faith through this genealogy is to understand that God has placement of everything through Old and New Testament. I believe that this can help other people in strengthening their faith and finding answers to something that they seem as lost. So often we focus on a New Testament and we forget the Old, and sometimes we focus on the Old Testament and abolish the New. So what this can do for others is that they can find Jesus Christ through it, and that's my ultimate goal. He is the Messiah that prophets have been talking about. From the very beginning of the world, the Word was with God, the Word was God, and the Word was good. And Jesus said, I am, and He was the Word, and He is good, and He is coming back. So I believe that if others find faith in this, they can come to Christ and they can be renewed in spirit. And that's my purpose for all of this. That's His purpose for all of this. ultimately what people can expect to receive from downloading, the file that's located in the description below is the genealogy and lineage of Jesus Christ as we know him in the Bible, and it's told in that order. One is in Matthew and the other is in Luke. They differ very easily because one is from Mary and the other is from Joseph. It also tells their lines and very similar. I'll give a few examples. Obed is in both lines, which means a servant. David is in both lines, which means beloved. Eliakim, which is the resurrection of God, again in both. You also have Abraham and Judah, which is the line of Judah, which is praise, and Abraham the exalted father. So, ultimately what you can find through this is you can do the research yourself. And you can also see that through all the lineage, all the genealogies that you can pick up through the Bible, you want to go to Numbers, which has a load of genealogy, you can start seeing the stories before they happen. You can start seeing the wonders that are in the Bible and the scripture. You can start having a little bit more faith knowing that God has put these things there for the fact of showing his son way before he was born into this world. He always was, he always is, and he always will be. I'll just say this for namesake. What you're going to see next is just a list of names scrolling down and their Hebrew meanings, so you can get a better understanding of what they mean and why they mean what they mean. And then if you wanted more, the link down in the description is going to go and show some other genealogies as well. And you can do the research yourself. It's real fun. It doesn't take much time. This probably only took me a couple of hours. So enjoy.